Hi, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. You're watching Farm Pretty. We're learning some simple, easy, and fun. In this video, you will learn the remaining parts of brain. So let me revise the parts of brain once again. The parts of brain are cerebrum, cerebellum, diencephalon, and brainstem. Cerebrum is the largest part in brain, which is present in the upper portion of the brain, and it consists of frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital lobe. This much I have completed before review. In this video will complete diencephalon and brainstem. First is about diencephalon. Diencephalon, it is the central core of brain, just present superior to the midbrain. So you can note down this diencephalon in between the brainstem and cerebrum. Okay, so it consists of thalamus and hypothalamus. First, what is thalamus? Thalamus is the largest part in the diencephalon, consists of 80% in the diencephalon. So other parts like hypothalamus, epithalamus are very less compared to thalamus in diencephalon. So the thalamus is a pad oval shaped grey matter. You just look out on a grey matter. You can note down this thalamus in that picture. So this thalamus is a bridge of grey matter joins the right and left half of the thalamus. This grey matter is divided by a Y-shaped septum of white matter. So that is called as intermedulla lamina. So this thalamus has several types of nucleus such as anterior nucleus, medial nucleus, lateral nucleus, ventral, interlaminar nucleus, midline nucleus, and reticular nucleus. So you can easily learn this nucleus because it is just noted on like anterior posterior, right? So next is the function of thalamus. So just imagine you're touching a hot object. Suddenly you just get rid of that. Why? What happening in your body? It's because thalamus is helping in that. So you just think impulse is passing to that, right? That is present in our spinal cord. This spinal cord will directly send message to our brain so that you can just take get your hands. This is because of this thalamus, because it acts as a relay center, and also it helps in your emotional behavior, and also act for motor functions like moving, right? It also helps in that, and also role in arousal and alertness. When you're sleeping, if you want to get up, it is helping you. Next is the hypothalamus. As we know, thalamus is the largest part, so the smallest part is hypothalamus in diencephalon, and it consists of 12 nuclei in 4 main regions. In thalamus, there are 7 nuclei, but this hypothalamus have 4 main regions for that. First of all, mammary region. So it is like nipple shape. You can see in the next picture. So in this diagram, you can see the nipple shaped in the hypothalamus. You can see a nipple shaped, right? That is what mammary region. And next is tubular region. In above that, you can see a tubular shaped structure, right? That is what tubular region. Next is suborbicular and perorbicular region. Next, you can see this clearly in this picture. That is suborbicular is just present above the tubular region. There is a picture that marked hypothalamus, right? So in that you can see lines in the middle. That is what suborbicular region, and above that is present in front of the suborbicular region is perorbicular region. This picture is not clearly representing that, but you can see clearly what is in that picture. So this tubular region is present the widest part of the hypothalamus. Next is the function of hypothalamus. You may have learned in your school days that pituitary gland is the master of glands, right? That pituitary gland is present in the hypothalamus. From this you can know that it is helping in the hormone production. So hypothalamus helps in the hormonal production and regulation of ANS, that is automatic nervous system, like functionals, visceral functions it is helping. Next is it helps in the thermoregulation. Thermoregulation means our body normal temperature is maintained by hypothalamus. And emotional and behavioral control, all are controlled by hypothalamus, like anger, like pleasure feeling, everything is controlled by hypothalamus. Next, controlling of eating, drinking, everything was controlled by hypothalamus. Next, it is the center for Sleepwalk cycle, like when you want to sleep you can sleep, when you want to wake up you can wake up. This was the sleepwalk cycle of this is controlled by hypothalamus. So next is midbrain. Like in the name, midbrain is present in between, that is between thalamus and pons. In between the thalamus and pons is midbrain is present. It is about 2.5 cm long and it connects the third ventricle with the fourth ventricle. And midbrain consists of four main parts, that is cerebral pedulus, tectum, subarticular nigra, and retinal nuclei. So in the picture, the second picture, you can see clearly the tectum, that is between the inferior callosum and tectanum. So this inferior callosum is cerebral pedulus and tectanum is the superior nigra. So we can just clearly note it down in this picture. Next, the parts is clearly explained, that is cerebral pedulus. It is the anterior part of midbrain, contain paired bundles of axon known as the cerebral pedulus. So this pedulus is just conduct nerve impulse from cerebral cortex to the spinal cord. And next is tectum. Tectum is the posterior part of the midbrain. So anterior means front and posterior means back side. So it's just present back side of the cerebral pedulus. So here you can see two superior and inferior colacum. In between them, tectum is present. So next is subauricular nigra, which is the nuclei connecting left and right subauriculars. Next is red nuclei. From the name itself, you can understand red nuclei. It is in a reddish color because it has rich iron content pigment in it. It controls the muscular. We already know that cerebrum is between the information of spinal cord and brain, so it's just intermediate of cerebrum and cerebellum. Next is the functions of this midbrain. As we have learned in red nuclei, it just connects the informations from the cerebrum and cerebellum, right? So it is just connects the cerebrum with the lower part of it and spinal cord, and also it is a contracting visual and auditory reflex. So just imagine that here is present, right, and eye is present in the middle of our brain. So we just control these things very easily. So just remember like that. So it connects cerebrum with lower part of its spinal cord. So it's very important, just remember that correctly. Next is cerebrum. Cerebellum, it is the second largest part of the brain. The first longest part is the cerebrum. The location is just behind the medulla and pons, below the posterior part of the cerebrum. So you can just note it down like below the cerebrum. That is not behind the cerebrum, it's just below the posterior part of the cerebrum. So back side of the cerebrum, below that you can see the cerebellum. And the location of cerebrum, it is present behind the medulla and pons and below the posterior part of the cerebrum. It is present behind the cerebrum and below the cerebrum. So just remember, imagine a brain in your mind and just think that as cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part present in the upper portion. And at the back side of the cerebrum, below the cerebrum, you can just denote that this cerebellum. So just remember like this. As like cerebrum, it also have a cerebral hemisphere. In cerebrum, it is cerebral hemisphere. Then this cerebral hemisphere is further divided into three parts, that is anterior lobe, posterior lobe, and focculator lobe. Anterior lobe involves the regulating the body posture, and then posterior lobe involves in the muscle movement contraction, and this focculator lobe involves the maintaining the balance and equilibrium of body. So in the picture, if you note down, you can see a parallel fold present, right? That is called fold. There are three paired cerebral pedulus that will attach the cerebellum to the brainstem. So you can just see the cerebellum attached to the brainstem through three pedulus, that are superior pedulus, middle pedulus, and inferior pedulus. You can detailedly learn about it. First is superior pedulus. It connects the cerebellum with midbrain. It has a nerve impulse that will extend from the cerebrum to the red nuclei of the midbrain. It has a nucleus for thalamus. So it has nucleus means it can just transport the informations from spinal cord to the thalamus. So just remember, right, there is a pedulus that connects the thalamus. So that was the superior cerebral pedulus. And next is middle cerebral pedulus. It is the largest pedulus in the cerebrum. Middle cerebral pedulus will connect the cerebrum to the pons, and it carry the impulse for the voluntary movements like moving the hands, moving the leg. Everything is involved in this middle cerebral pedulus, and it has an axon for that too. Next is the inferior pedulus. So inferior pedulus will connect the cerebellum with medulla oblongata. So it helps in sensory information. Just think that if you heard the word sensory information, that means it's just carry the information from the main center to the limbs or legs or whatever where it gets stimulated. Okay. So inferior cerebral pedulus will carry the information from cerebellum to the limbs. Okay. Next is the functions of cerebellum. This you have already learned in that anterior lobe and that posterior lobe, right? Like for the posture, balance and equilibrium. For balance and equilibrium is in foculated lobe, and these are helped by the cerebellum. So it was having the function to in the same. So if you learn that what are the things inside, you can just easily write this functions. So next is the spinal cord. We all know that where is the spinal cord is present, right? It is just backside of a body within the vertebral cavity of the vertebral column. So we all know the shape of the spinal cord too. It's just elongated cylindrical structure of the CNS, and this picture is the inner portion of the spinal cord. So you can just see that it is just 42 to 45 centimeter in length. So inside of the spinal cord is just 42 to 45 centimeter in length, and it extends from medulla oblongata to the upper border of the secondary lumbar vertebral. So this has an external anatomy of spinal cord and an internal anatomy of the spinal cord. In this picture you can just see that a butterfly shape, right? That is both internal, and the outer cover yellowish color is the outer. First let us learn about the external anatomy of the spinal cord. It is divided into 4 types: protective structure, enlargement, segments and spinal nerve. As in the name protective structure, this just protects the spinal cord, that are bony vertebral column, meninges and cerebral spinal fluid. I have already told that I will explain about the cerebral spinal fluid later, right? So I will just explain in the last of the video. Next is enlargements. Enlargements consist of mainly 2 things. It is cervical enlargement and lumbar enlargement. Cervical is 7 and lumbar is 5. Just remember, cervical is 7 and lumbar is 5. So it just has impulse, nerve impulse and just segments also present. So next we can learn about the segments of the spinal cord. So it consists of 33 segments. In this picture you can just note it down, right? 33 segments, that are cerebral segment, thoracic segment, lumbar segment, sacral segment and cogular segments. Cervical and lumbar supplies the nerves to the upper and lower limb. Means cervical will supply the nerve to the upper limb, and lumbar will supply the nerves to the lower limb. So below the lumbar enlargement, there is a terminal called as cognos medullary. So this lumbar and cervical. After that, in the middle you can see this thoracic. So from the name itself you can understand thoracic is supplied to the thoracic region like throat and mouth, etc. So these spinal cord is just supplies the impulse, right? Nerve impulse. That is called spinal nerves that arise from the spinal cord. So here it is just 4. That is cervical, lumbar and sacral and cogular nerves. There is no need of the nerve in our thoracic region, right? So it is just this much for that nerve impulse. So like cervical, I have already told this upper limb, and just lumbar is for lower limb. This is enough for your stimuli, right? So that nerve impulse are just present in the cervical sacral region. So if some stimuli happen in your thoracic region like a mouth or something else, you may have doubt how you getting this right. That is because of the segments, because it is directly connected to your brain, which sends the impulse from your tongue or something else directly to the mouth. So next is internal anatomy. So it is just internal view of our spinal cord. It has a oval in shape. Internal anatomy, it has a oval in shaped spinal cord, and it is made up of white matter and grey matter. So outer is white matter and inner is a grey matter. So spinal cord has several types like grey matter, white matter, etc. So we will learn in the further phase. First one is grey matter. The grey matter of the spinal cord is butterfly shaped. You can clearly see in that first picture, right? A butterfly shaped inner structure I have already explained you. That was the grey matter. It is surrounded by a white matter. Anterior grey horns are also known as ventral grey horns. So it is just present in the front side. So it is mostly concentrated on the motor functions, like transporting the stimuli from our hand or legs to the brain. And next one is posterior grey matter. This is also known as dorsal grey matter because it is just backside, right? Backside we always say that as a dorsal. And sends the impulse from the sensory function. Just send the impulse from our brain to the stimulated area like hands or legs or etc. So and the next one is the lateral grey matter. So just imagine you have completed anterior and posterior, right? So then what is the lateral grey matter? So it is an autonomic in nature, means it will just help in our autonomicity, like moving our legs or our hands, like voluntary functions are involved here. And it has the thoracic lumbar and upper lumbar segments in it. Next is posterior root of the spinal cord enters the spinal nerves through the posterior horns. Okay, posterior root of the spinal nerves enter through the spinal cord through the posterior nerves. So posterior things are entered through it, and then anterior parts are entered through the anterior. Just write in the same way. Posterior means posterior, anterior means anterior. So anterior nerves impulse sent into a spinal cord through anterior horns. Posterior enters to posterior horns. Just remember like that. And then it has a minute canals present in the center of the spinal cord called central canicle. Next is the white matter. I already told that white matter is present in the outside light. So the peripheral region is the white matter, and it is divided into two, right and left, that is called posterior and anterior. This posterior has posterior medulla fixae and anterior has anterior medulla fixae. And this white matter is further divided into three regions, that is anterior white column, posterior white column and lateral white column. As like grey matter, it also has three, the same names are there, but it just changed from grey horns to white column. As we learned in the grey matter, the anterior has ventral grey horns, right? But here it has ventral white columns. Just change the name from grey horns to white column. That is enough here. The same way posterior has dorsal white column. Just change from grey horns to white columns. Next is the functions of spinal cord. It has the function as sensory function, motor function, autonomic function. Just remember, when you are touching a hot object, suddenly an impulse is passed into your brain, then you take a hand away, right? That's what is sensory function. Because when you touch the object, the impulse is sent from the stimuli to the brain, that is sensory, and from the brain to the affected organs, that is the motor function. And then it has the autonomic function. Autonomic function is the sending impulse for our organs to work properly. Like while you're eating, to just digest the food, it just send the impulse. So while you're eating, don't talk, because it want to send the impulse for them. It should not concentrate on talking, right? So next, we have completed the central nervous system completely. Central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord. This has been completed completely. Next one is peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system consists of SNS and ANS, and this SNS is a somatic autonomic. So first we can learn about this SNS and ANS. So SNS is responsible for the voluntary function. If you have learned one side, you can easily write opposite to that. So we have already told SNS has voluntary, right? Then what is the ANS? It is opposite, involuntary function. Next, what are the voluntary and involuntary functions? Voluntary is moving hands, touching, speaking, writing. So it is all voluntary. And then involuntary is like digestion. You cannot control digestion. Just respiration, salivation. It cannot be controlled, right? That is what involuntary. And then it consists of skeletal muscle in SNS, that is somatic consists of skeletal muscle for sense organs. And then opposite to skeletal muscle is visceral organs. It controls visceral organs like digestive function, etc. And then it sends signals. And then it sends signals for our motor nerves, right? It just transports impulse from the brain CNS to the effectory organs. But in ANS, it is autonomic ganglia, it is reached there and then to the effectory organ. If any damages in our nervous system, it does not affect in our involuntary function. It only affects our voluntary function. Just guess now, I have given you a clue. So which one is affected when you have a denervation? Which one is affected first? So this is a question. Just imagine some of the things was happening in your nervous system. So it first affects your SNS. It does not affect directly your ANS. So any damage in the nervous system, first thing was affected is SNS. So degeneration causes the paralysis of muscles. Next to the division of ANS, autonomic nervous system, that is sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic will help in our emergency situation, whereas parasympathetic helps in our normal resting condition while breathing. These all the function has this parasympathetic. So sympathetic has its origin from thoracolumnar region. So it has another name like thoracolumnar division or fight division. You can say other names like. So parasympathetic has origin in cardinosacral region. So it has another name like coronary system or cardinosacral divisions or rest or digest division. So I have already told why you want to fight or you want to respond to the fight, this sympathetic is used. So when you are sleeping, someone want to wake up, you just ready to fight, right? That was sympathetic. And then functions of sympathetic and parasympathetic. The functions of sympathetic and parasympathetic can be easily learned by their function. The function of sympathetic is to fight and parasympathetic is to rest, right? It is active in that fight and rest situation. So first let me explain about sympathetic. So when you are ready to fight, just start from your eyes. Your eyes will start to dilate. Means it just used to focus on that fight, right? So that it just is myodermis. It is a medical term, myodermis. Just to go to the salivary gland. So what will happen? Your salivary will be stopped producing in that time, and then heart rate will be increased. So you have to just fight, and then your lungs will also increase its breathing, right? And then your liver will increase the glycogenous producing and glyconeogenesis producing, and your urinary bladder will just relax and sit calmly in that time. And next go to the kidney, it will stop the urination. You don't feel like maturation, right? So next is blood vessels. What will happen? You will have a hypertension in that. You want to fight. And then you have a decrease in insulin secretion, and a posterior pituitary will increase its secretion in adrenal gland. Like when you want to fight, just you want to produce more hormones, right? Then you can just fight with that particular person. So this is what about the function of sympathetic and parasympathetic. So next we can learn about the cerebrospinal fluid. So from this name itself you can know cerebrospinal fluid. It's a spinal cord fluid. So it is clear and colorless liquid composed of water. It is mostly composed of water only. The formation can be easily learned by this flowchart. So in that, first the CSF is formed in the choroidal flask. Then it is directly secreted into the lateral ventricle. We have already learned in that brain, right? And then you have a vertebral column is directly attached to that. So it lateral ventricles, which is secreted into the lateral ventricle. Then through the interventricular foramina, then it is passed to the third ventricle. Then from third ventricle to fourth ventricle, it is passed through adequate of midbrain. And then from the fourth ventricle, it's just passed through the subauricular space through lateral and median apertures. Then the subauricular space will directly pass that to original medulla, and finally it reaches to heart and lungs. So I think you have clearly understood about the topic. So follow my channel for more videos related to PharmD courses, and don't forget to subscribe my video for more information. And you're watching Farm Pretty, for learning is very simple, easy and fun. So thank you for watching my channel. See you in my next video. So don't forget to subscribe my video.